Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
Man, I'm looking forward to speaking in Denver, Colorado. That's coming up May 27th. Later in the summer, it's Tulsa, Rochester, and Sarnia, Ontario. And others may be coming soon for the rest of 2023. If you want to see my entire speaking schedule, times, dates, places, links, sethandrews.com/events. So my wife, Natalie, went to San Diego, California to spend 4 days with her cousin. Just some time with family, going to go and enjoy the California air and the ocean, water that is not brown. How novel for someone who lives in Oklahoma. And I stayed back here. I'd been traveling a lot and somebody needed to watch the dogs. And so she left for the West Coast and we were checking in with each other. Hey, baby, how's your trip going? You having fun? Send me pictures. How's everybody doing? What are some of the fun things that you have been doing? And I think it was the second day, she said, Shanna, her cousin, Shanna has a heated toilet seat. And it is the greatest thing in the universe. I'm sorry. She has a heated toilet seat? Yes. Yes. I love sitting on the toilet. It's so warm and comforting. I'm sorry. You love sitting on the toilet seat? Yes. Yes. All right. Well, describe what you're talking about. And so she goes into it. It's this electric plug-in thing, like the seat heats, and I guess it's got a bidet, which is a weird concept for Americans, but apparently not for most of the other countries of the world. Like they have bidets. And the bidet is that water cleaner that I guess to a degree replaces toilet tissue. It cleans you from beneath. This device apparently doesn't just have a bidet, but it's got an ass dryer. So you sit on the warm seat and you do what you've got to do. And then afterwards you use a remote. There's like a panel and it sprays you to clean you. And then instead of needing toilet paper, apparently you hit the dryer button. And it shoots warm air up and dries you from beneath. So Natalie is like, this is the best part of my whole trip. I am laughing so hard on what are you talking about? I was, by the way, informed that South Park had done an episode on Japanese toilets because I guess this kind of thing is very common in Japan. Like high-end, luxury, heated toilets with all of these. They have toilets that apparently when you walk into the room, they open automatically. The lid goes automatically. And when you're done, it closes automatically. Some have LED lights that change colors like little disco toilets. I did not know these things existed. So she gets back on a plane. She ends up coming home. I scoop her up at the airport, take her home, and we are hanging out. Now, I took a one-day trip to Dallas, Texas, and while I was on the road, I'm checking in with my wife. Hey, honey, Yeah, I'm driving south. I'm near Sherman, Texas. I'm about an hour and a half or whatever away. What are you up to? Well, I'm browsing. Yeah, What are you browsing? I am shopping for heated toilet seats for the master bathroom. I'm sorry. We're going to get one of those? Like you want one of those? Yeah? Oh my goodness. It's one of the first things she did when she got back. So she has ordered an ass-warming toilet seat with bidet and dryer, and apparently it is supposed to be delivered in a few days. I mean, she doesn't need my permission to populate her life with the things that make her happy. We have raised eyebrows at each other, right? We're very different people. As equals, I mean, if it makes you happy, great. But there are times when, you look at the other person and you raise an eyebrow and go, what? What did you buy? What is it that you want and why? I don't really understand. I mean, I think all couples can relate to that. I'm guilty. I've bought plenty of stuff. A lot of it's just crap, but it just makes me happy. I do that. Okay. It's not like I'm not a total hypocrite when I give her grief about something. But, the truth is, it's kind of her party. You want this? Terrific. Okay, great. Knock yourself out. We'll kind of see what happens. Hell, I mean, Natalie's a damn superhero anyway. Have I told you this story? I'll make it quick if you've heard it already. This was before we got married. We were together, and we had a house in Broken Arrow suburb, another suburb, and I think she had some unfinished business. She's like, I didn't finish college when I was 18. I went to college, but I left to pursue my then husband's career, to help him build his business. But now I want to build something for myself. I want to go get my degree, and she wanted to go into the medical field. The college to do that 100 miles away. It's 100 miles down the turnpike. But she didn't want to be away from her children or displace everyone by moving. Natalie decided that she was going to drive it 100 miles each direction, 5 days a week for 2 years. I don't know how she did it. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, every sense of the word. So, I mean, even if we didn't have this sort of attitude that, hey, whatever, she doesn't owe me anything. She doesn't owe me an explanation. She can have whatever she wants. She's a damn superhero. So, anyway, as much as I have been laughing, not have I been mocking? No, I don't know if it's mocking. I think I'm just amused. She has said, and her cousin, who has found out that this is going on, they have both said, you are going to owe us an apology. Because the first time you use it, you will also determine that this is the greatest thing in the universe. So somewhere between my house and a toilet seat manufacturing distribution center somewhere, some in transit at this moment, there is a heated toilet seat and washer dryer mechanism thing. And I will have a report for you. I guess, is it a beta test? I guess it wouldn't be a beta test because it's already a released product, but this would be a home demonstration. I can't believe I haven't already done this. Hang on just a second. I'm going to Google search Japan luxury. It comes right up. Japan luxury toilet. CNN has an article about this from a few years ago about walking into a Tokyo bathroom and the smart toilet greeted the reporter. You could set the temperature of the water heater. You could set the water pressure level. It had lights and it played music. Music to poop by. Okay, all right, this is the thing. Where have I been? Okay, what else have I been doing? Oh, Oklahoma, I swear. So we made national news again. For not good reasons, again. This time I've been following the recent passage of Senate Bill 404, otherwise known as the Oklahoma Religious Freedom Act. And isn't that a punchline? It was co-authored by Republican Representative John Echols, and he was saying it's discriminatory against religions if we don't allow taxpayer money to give them government funds, benefits, programs, and exemptions. Oh no, religious institutions are essentially being discriminated against if Oklahomans of all faiths and none aren't funneling tax benefit to them. And guess which religion John Echols belongs to? And then several Democrats stood up and stated the obvious. In fact, it was Representative Monroe Nichols who said this.
Discrimination against religious institutions does not happen in Oklahoma.
And of course, he's absolutely right. Now, one of my favorite lines, this is actually from a news report from KFOR News in Oklahoma City. Channel 4 was profiling the approval of this bill, and the report featured this line.
Echols admits he doesn't have current examples of religious discrimination in Oklahoma, but says this proposed law provides future protection against ideas like removing tax-exempt status for churches.
Oh, it's priceless. There are no examples that this shit has actually been going on. But one day, you never know. If it happens, look out, right? They've invented a crisis so that they can solve the crisis that does not exist. Refreshingly, on the debate floor, it was Mickey Dolenz, representative for Oklahoma's 93rd District. In fact, let me play you a few minutes of his statement. It is refreshingly reasonable.
Throughout my years here at the Capitol, it seems we've gone beyond blurring the lines of separation of church and state to just a church and state. But today, I stand and advocate for that wall of separation. And I'm going to give you 3 reasons why I believe our taxpayer dollars, everyone's taxpayer dollars, should not subsidize religious institutions. In 2016, I took my first oath of office, and I've taken it every 2 years since. The same one you took, Madam Speaker, and the rest of the people in this chamber. And in that, under Article 2, Section 5, it says, no public money or property shall ever be appropriated, applied, donated, or used directly or indirectly for the use, benefit, or support of any sect, church, denomination, or system of religion, or for the use, benefit, or support of any priest, preacher, minister, or other religious teacher or dignitary, or sectarian institution as such. When I first took this oath in 2016, there was a state question that very same year. And that state question had to deal with using tax dollars to fund religious activities and programs, specifically the 10 Commandments at the state capitol. I think we all remember how that turned out. The people of Oklahoma overwhelmingly said they do not want their tax dollars to fund religious institutions and programs on government property, and that includes in our schools as well. The Attorney General recently reversed an opinion that speaks to this very issue. Madam Speaker, a good representative earlier brought up the fact that this bill will result in lawsuits. This bill will end up costing taxpayer money. I heard the suggestion that representatives should have to foot that bill if they pass unconstitutional laws and it ends up in a losing lawsuit, which this one most certainly will. It was also stated publicly by the Senate author that the Catholic Archdiocese is behind this bill. I wish someone would explain to me why one of the most wealthiest religious institutions in the history of the world feel that it's appropriate to use taxpayer dollars, or how it's burdensome on them to not receive taxpayer dollars in order to fulfill their religious mission.
And then Mickey Dolenz goes on to educate the other Christians or Christian nationalists in the room that, all right, fine, you're going to open that door, prepare yourself, because here come the Hindus and the Jews and the Sikhs and the Muslims and the Satanists and the Church of the Jedi Order. I think he even invoked Dudeism, which is an actual religion, by the way. The Church of the Latter-day Dude, which is based on the movie The Big Lebowski. I am a Dudeist priest. I am not kidding. I went to the Church of the Latter-day Dude, and I filled out the form, and I'm an ordained Dudeist priest. And so these Oklahoma Christian zealots are, I think, totally unprepared for the implications of what they are doing, because here comes everybody else, and they are going to act shocked and dismayed and chagrined. Oh, goodness. Churches that aren't Jesus churches are going to benefit from the tax dollars of Christians? That's an attack on my religious freedom. Hashtag irony. Oh, please let it happen. Please. Oh, let the Satanic Temple show up and say, hey, we heard there was a party. And there's seats for religions. We're a non-theistic religion based around Satan. Looking forward to receiving those checks. Thank you so much for being so inclusive to our religion. Oh, please let it happen. Please let me read that headline. Let it happen. Oh, I'm watching closely. I've also been spending time on Twitter teaching Christians their own Bible. There's a guy named Ben Zeisloft, and he writes for the Daily Wire. By the way, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire is Ben Shapiro. So I'm just letting you know kind of what to expect, okay? So Ben Zeisloft tweets this out. He says, examples of Christian laws: murderers and rapists executed. Innocence until proven guilty. Equal protection. Punishment fits the crime. Examples of pagan laws: child sacrifice, widow burning, people are chattel, castration of young boys. And I looked at the tweet and I thought, you're just going to waste your time. You've got so much to do. Look at your inbox. You've got show prep, and you're going to be traveling. You're going here. You got a speech to work on, and you got to, no, I'm going to respond. I am going to teach another Christian about their Bible. Sunday school is in session, folks. You are welcome. Click. I said, rape victims forced to marry their rapists after the father is paid off. Deuteronomy 22. Slavery and slave beating is condoned. Exodus 21. Human sacrifice. Judges 12. Genocide and kidnapping. Numbers 31. Executing disobedient children. Deuteronomy 21. You're not even trying. Now, did I expect to change his mind? Absolutely not. I just felt like he needed to be publicly educated while other people are watching the exchange play out. Well, Ben responded. Would you like to hear some of what happened next? I'll spare you some of it because it went on for a while before I finally got smart and decided to do something productive. Ben said, "You're a professing atheist. On what basis do you consider whether a given law is moral or immoral?" Now, this is a play on the objective moral standard argument. A lot of apologists pinball back to this one. How do you know rape is wrong and murder is wrong and theft is wrong, etc., if there isn't a God that told you so? If there's not an objective moral standard that was put in place by a standard bearer or standard maker. And of course, then they make the chasm-sized leap to their specific pet deity with a proper name. In this case, it's going to be Yahweh Jesus. How do you know that a given law is moral or immoral? So I responded that understanding evolved ethical systems isn't difficult for those who are actually interested. Pro-social species survive and thrive. More interesting here is your redirect away from the chapters and verses I cited. Ben jumps back in. Why are murder and rape wrong? How do you decide this? I said you need to be informed by a third party that rape and murder are destructive behaviors. That's scary. But back to your Bible, where rape is allowed and rape victims are punished. Right? He still doesn't want to talk about it. He says you're borrowing capital from the Christian worldview. You have a God-given conscience by opposing rape and murder, but you have no basis to account for this beyond saying most people agree with you. This is the same basis of morality which enabled the Holocaust, and we just knew he was going to invoke the Nazis. And it went on and on. I mean, essentially said that, an Islamist, a Muslim can come in and say that you were borrowing your moral capital from Allah and the Islamic God, and you would both have an equal amount of evidence to prove this. Zero. I'm also interested in how Ben Zeisloft called me a professing atheist, and I have to wonder if he's one of those guys who says, well, everybody believes in God. Some people just don't want to admit it. Because I hear that quite a bit, Well, everybody knows that God is real. Some people just profess otherwise, And then we just prepare ourselves for the barrage of all the familiar stuff that's going to come next, right? Evolution is just a theory. It takes more faith to be an atheist. Atheism is just another religion, the God of the gaps. You were never a true Christian because a true Christian would never have walked away from the love of Jesus. You're taking the Old Testament out of context. I had a personal experience with Jesus, and that proves Jesus. Better safe than sorry. I'd rather believe and go to heaven. Even if I'm wrong, I haven't wasted anything. How did something come from nothing? The I is too complex to have evolved. Here's scientist X, like Stephen Meyer, and he believes in God. It's true because the Bible says it's true. We are a Christian nation. The Lord is mysterious. He moves in mysterious ways. Of course, he is also not the author of confusion, so he is really undeniable if you look around. Atheists reject God because they wish to be God. There are no transitional fossils. You know what? Prove God doesn't exist. Well, for somebody who doesn't believe in God, you sure talk about him an awful lot. This seems suspicious to me. And of course, my favorite, you may not believe in God, but he believes in you. These people, it's like somebody decided to write out theology on bumper stickers, and then they use those bumper stickers to train a parrot how to speak. And then when you engage them, it's like these little Christianese fortune cookies. It's not a religion, it's a relationship. I mean, Christians have no idea how offensive the question actually is. If you don't believe in God, how would you even know not to rape people? This is what religion does to the brain. This, to them, seems like a reasonable and unoffensive question. Why aren't you a rapist if you don't believe in God, specifically my God named Jesus or whoever? Why aren't you a rapist? Well, you either stole morality from my God, or you might actually be capable of rape. You and I look them in the eye and say, Is the Bible the good book? Absolutely. Would you do me a favor? Open it up to Judges 21, Numbers 31, Deuteronomy 20 and 22, 2 Samuel 12, Judges chapter 5, Exodus 21, Zechariah 14. Just open up the Bible and read these segments among others, and then call me. Okay? Call me and we'll talk. Okay, Ron DeSantis is being sued by Disney. Oh, I'm so happy. I'm so happy. We're going to talk about that next. I have been struggling lately. I try not to hate people. I can't think of a time I've said, I hate this person, because I feel like the world already has too much hate. We're opponents of hate. Hate has driven so much destructive behavior against our fellow human beings. I don't want to hate, but I struggle with some people on the planet. There is a famous quote that's attributed to Mark Twain. I don't think Twain actually said it. But the quote is, I've never wished a man dead, but I have read some obituaries with great pleasure. Oh, I feel this statement. I mean, I don't need Tucker Carlson to die. But let's say aliens came and abducted him, and they took him away somewhere and he was just gone, never to return. I would read that headline with great pleasure, because what did we lose and what did we gain? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, etc. They accidentally say the magic words, open a portal to a parallel dimension, step through. They are never seen or heard from again. What have we lost and what have we gained? The net goodness of humanity would go up. The stock price of our species would increase, would it not? Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida. By the way, and this is just an aside, this is the same guy who ran for the midterms 2022. And let me just play you some of the audio from Ron DeSantis's political television commercial.
And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a protector. So God made a fighter. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, kiss his family goodbye, travel thousands of miles for no other reason than to serve the people, to save their jobs, their livelihoods, their liberty, their happiness. So God made a fighter. God said, I need someone to be strong, advocate truth in the midst of hysteria, someone who challenges conventional wisdom and isn't afraid to defend what he knows to be right and just. So God made a fighter.
By the way, that's a play on an old 1978 speech that was given by Paul Harvey called So God Made a Farmer. It was a tribute to the American farmer. Ron DeSantis just sort of retooled it to tell the world God has anointed him, the great crusader, to come and save the state of Florida. I look at this man and I'm desperate to find a single redeeming quality. I can't find anything. Nothing. Zero, zip, nil, nothing. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. This is the guy elected back in 2018, took office in January of 2019. The same guy who not only sort of brushed off COVID mask requirements and made it illegal for businesses and government offices to require vaccination cards, and saw COVID cases spike and COVID deaths spike in the state of Florida. This is the same guy who had a data scientist. Her name is Rebecca Jones, and she worked for the state of Florida, for the government of Florida. And she was ordered to manipulate data on COVID-19 cases and deaths. Being a scientist, she refused. What happened to her? Governor Ron DeSantis fired her. He fired her for not falsifying records. And he's been accused of falsifying or shielding other public records, anything that makes him look bad. Bloggers were writing about Ron DeSantis. They were heavily criticizing the stuff he was saying and doing in the state of Florida. And oh, look who suggested that bloggers in Florida who write about the government and representatives, Congress people, and the governor, they would all have to register with the state. They would have to send in reports on everything they write and document how much money they make as bloggers. And if that sounds suspiciously North Korea, you would be absolutely right. Ron DeSantis doesn't want discussion about race or sexual orientation in school. He thinks teaching people that our past isn't all harps and roses and that the United States has a history of discrimination against minorities, whether it's women or LGBTQ people or people of color, etc., by acknowledging and teaching about things like, the civil rights movement, the Civil War, or whatever. We are teaching children to hate America. He has waged war on the actual teaching of our history. He's behind a ton of book bannings going on throughout the state. Who would have thunk we would live in the time of book bannings? But here we are, and there is Governor Ron DeSantis. This was last year. Ron DeSantis chartered 2 private planes, and then he lured migrants to board the airplanes under false pretenses. 50 of these people got onto the plane. They were flown to Martha's Vineyard on September 14th. They were dumped off. Neither they nor Martha's Vineyard were informed about what the hell was going on. DeSantis just had them dumped off. Did you watch the residents of Martha's Vineyard after that happened? They all joined together. They provided temporary shelter, and they gave them food and blankets and clothing and everything that they might need urgently, even though they were overwhelmed. This was an island community unprepared for this influx of people on 2 jet planes. They were humanity, and they did the humanist thing. All the while, Ron DeSantis is back in Florida congratulating himself for displacing human beings after lying to them. And now we've got Ron DeSantis' feud with Mickey Mouse. And you're just not going to win a war with Mickey Mouse. You can't beat Mickey Mouse. Short version of a very long and messy story. I'm going to miss some of the details here. But Disney has been in charge of its own municipal services and zoning and acting almost like a mini state within the state of Florida. They're able to do what they do because they bring so much benefit to the state of Florida. It's a symbiotic relationship. Disney says, look, we know how to run our own show, and Florida gets a ton of tourism dollars. We help put Florida on the map in this way. Everybody wins. Okay, great. But Ron DeSantis has become concerned that Disney has gone woke. Disney fires back and says, hey, we're a private entity and we can decide to accept all people no matter who they are and celebrate the diversity, the wide, wild spectrum of humanity on our terms. Get over it. Ron DeSantis says, oh yeah, I'm going to sign a bill that strips away your ability to operate with autonomy. The government's now going to take control of many of your critical services. So what you've been doing for the last 50 years, it's pretty much over. We are going to tell you how to do what you do. Disney responded, oh yeah, here's a lawsuit. Have a nice day. By the way, Governor DeSantis And the state of Florida was actually asked or required in court to define what it means to be woke. This was a separate lawsuit that was going on. There was a Democratic state attorney, a guy named Andrew Warren, and he said that he would not prosecute abortion seekers or providers. He simply refused to do it, and he signed a pledge. I am not going to wage a war on reproductive rights or punish people who want an abortion. Ron DeSantis says, you are in dereliction of your duty. I'm going to sue you. So they take the whole thing in front of a judge and they start talking about how Attorney Warren is being woke. The judge said, what do you mean by woke? How do you define woke? And listen to the definition. Woke is, quote, the belief that there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them. Wait a minute. There are systemic injustices in American society, and there is a need to address them? How is that controversial? How would any moral person look at structures in place, many which have been grandfathered in by hugely racist foundations, and not acknowledge that, yes, there are some systems that are unjust and we need to work against it to benefit all and promote equality? Wokeism. How is this controversial? But welcome to the tiny, tiny, tiny world of Ron DeSantis, where apparently this is a problem. Anyway, Disney decides they're not having any of this, and they're not going to let the government come in and jack with them in this way. So on the 26th of April, they filed their lawsuit. Let me just read a little bit from the front of the lawsuit. Usually it's a bunch of legal speak that's hard to get through. This is actually really, really well worded. Let me read just a few paragraphs from the introduction. For more than half a century, Disney has made an immeasurable impact on Florida and its economy, establishing Central Florida as a top global tourist destination and attracting tens of millions of visitors to the state each year. People and families from every corner of the globe have traveled to Walt Disney World because of the unrivaled guest experience it provides and the deep emotional connection that generations of fans have with Disney's timeless stories and characters. A targeted campaign of government retaliation orchestrated at every step by Governor DeSantis as punishment for Disney's protected speech now threatens Disney's business operations, jeopardizes its economic future in the region, and violates its constitutional rights. Today's action is the latest strike. At the governor's bidding, the state's oversight board has purported to void publicly noted and duly agreed development contracts, which had laid the foundation for billions of Disney's investment dollars and thousands of jobs. This government action was patently retaliatory, patently anti-business, and patently unconstitutional. But the governor and his allies have made clear they do not care and will not stop. Declared that his team would not only void the development agreement, just as they did today, but also planned to look at things like taxes on the hotels, tolls on the roads, developing some of the property that the district owns with more amusement parks, and even putting a state prison next to Walt Disney World. Who knows? I just think the possibilities are endless, he said. Skipping down to the last paragraph of the introduction, Disney finds itself in this regrettable position because it expressed a viewpoint the governor and his allies did not like. Disney wishes that things could have been resolved a different way, but Disney also knows that it's fortunate to have the resources to take a stand against the state's retaliation, a stand smaller businesses and individuals might not be able to take when the state comes after them for expressing their own views. In America, the government cannot punish you for speaking your mind. And so, Governor Ron DeSantis has poked the bear, or poked the mouse. He has unleashed the whirlwind. This isn't some mom and pop shop on the corner where the lawyers can just bleed him dry so they can't retaliate. Disney's going, okay, fine. If anybody can afford a legal battle, I guess it's us. Here we go. Government countersuits have already been filed. There was an article in Esquire from a few months ago that was commenting on the cruelty, the celebrated cruelty of Ron DeSantis, which you and I mean, we see all around us, right? Some people are like, well, they're strong. They're not afraid to speak their mind. They're beholden to no one. That's strength. Well, is that really strength? Or, I mean, are you strong? Are you just a bully? Are you just cruel? Esquire magazine from February, the article is titled, Ron DeSantis is a man of no qualities, and the article covers much of what you and I have covered here and a lot more. But I really like the way this is phrased. Normalization of cruelty matters. Normalization of authoritarianism matters. Normalization of Orwellian approaches to governance, anti-democratic to their core, matter. It is dangerous to let fascism become a concept that lazily yawns and breathes in the morning air, whistles a cheerful tune on the way to a cafe coffee and a breakfast sandwich before getting down to the serious work, thankful that once more it has not had to explain itself. DeSantis may be less flamboyant than Trump, but he supports a style and substance of governance just as inflammatory. He weaponizes others' emotions to create an image of himself as imbued with the qualities of some quasi-religious savior of Florida, while actually making people's lives worse. Florida and its people don't deserve this desecration. No place does. Even as DeSantis and his Republican predecessors have managed to turn an absolute paradise into a place that is close to a failed state. Because what Ron DeSantis does at base, including to his base, is simple. He inflicts damage in pursuit of political gain, on purpose and with abandon, with no regard for collateral harm. This is the Ron DeSantis of Florida, who wants to become the Ron DeSantis of America, to tell us to our dying day that we are not communities of loving grace and communion, that we are not all connected, that acts of loving kindness are for fools and traitors, to tell us that only some of us matter, not all of us. Maybe, in the end, if we do not heed the warnings, DeSantis will tell us in 1,000 lacerating ways, direct and indirect, that none of us matter. Again, that's from an article from February in Esquire by Jeff Vandermeer. Our listeners have opinions about much of this. Short break. We'll talk to them next. I've been curious how the whole Ron DeSantis Disney lawsuit is going to play out. I think many of our listeners are curious as well. We go to the switchboard. 301. I've got Ray. Ray, are you with me?
Yes.
Disney DeSantis, 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, I guess.
Maybe.
You have I don't know, do you have a perspective?
Yeah. I turned it around a little bit. I think no matter what, DeSantis loses. Even if he wins against Disney with this BS board that he put in, I think that win is like another case of dog catches car. Ultimately, we have a layer of voters that will say, even the ones that are so-called conservative, they'll see that and they'll go, oh, shit, this is not what I wanted, when they see what happens next. And I'm thinking my basis for this thought is that I listened to the Rachel Maddow podcast called Ultra. When America went through a period where Nazis were infiltrating Congress, or Nazi sympathizers, and state-level governments, and we had basically bosses in these power positions. When prosecutors were going after politicians, the prosecutors would get fired. Or when trials were going on, judges would, with these people who blew up or attacked institutions. Then the judge dies in the middle of the trial. All these things happen. Ultimately, what happens is the voters in this case, this happened in the 40s, saw what was going on. They said, okay, enough. And they voted all of those Nazi sympathizers out, even though they were winning. And not everybody saw justice. And some people that were fighting for justice never saw success. But there's something built into our culture on a very fundamental level, very basic level, that might, in the end, when things get worse and worse and worse, protect us. That's my thought.
When Trump was running in 2016, I remember seeing one awful revelation after another, and I thought, well, that'll be it. That's unsurvivable. And throughout 2016, 17, 18, 19, right, I kept thinking, well, at some point, people are going to say, we've had enough. And they're just going to cast the guy aside. And I'm still waiting for that day. I struggle with that. I don't know if I have your level of, what I call it, optimism.
Have you noticed that the layers of support for Trump is peeled away? Not enough where you can just breathe a sigh of relief, but the overall numbers, even though the percentages go up, the overall numbers go down.
I am seeing more dissent and dissatisfaction sometimes there are some people I think who have woken up and said, holy shit, right? And then they've come forward and they're like, I was that person and I was wrong. And I think that's fair and it's good. I think we have to allow throughout humanity the opportunity for people to grow through failure. We've all been wrong about something how I also think there are other people who are pissed off at Trump because he wasn't as awful as they wanted. Like, where's the damn wall? And how come Muslims are here and shit like that? And so, but it is interesting to watch the division and dissent. And I do wonder if it's going to cost him at some point. Will they end up attacking each other, right? They'll go to war with each other while the rest of it's watch from the grandstand kind of thing.
Right. And, there is that conundrum regarding Trump. If he wins the primary, he might increase the odds of losing the general election.
I've been watching him more and more invoke the name of God recently as he is doing his thing. He's talking more and more about the Bible and God. He's doing these sit-down interviews on religious networks. And I keep saying, and I will stand by this, I would pay $1,000 out of my savings, out of my life. I would take $1,000 for the opportunity to give Donald Trump a 10-minute basic Bible quiz on live television, right? For all the Bible waving he does, I'll ask him the basics, no trick questions, right? No minefield, no potholes. I'm just going to ask him the basics to see how much he knows about the God that he continues to invoke, and he will fail beautifully. I'm convinced.
A great idea. A great idea. In fact, I would add on to that, make it a game show where you have him versus a 5-year-old.
Him versus a 5-year-old from Sunday school. Let's try that. Yeah.
Yes.
And let's penalize him financially for every wrong answer. Or, 6 months in prison for every time you get one wrong. And here we go. Ray, thanks for calling. I so appreciate you being a part of today's conversation. Be safe out there, okay?
Thanks, Seth.
All right. See you later.
You too.
They used to have a game show when I was growing up, and I kind of wanted to be on the game show called the Bible Bowl. It was like a national televised thing. And so kids would qualify locally, and then they would compete all the way up the chain until they ended up on this television show. And it was like an arena, circular arena, and then they would bring kids down to answer Bible questions for points. And now I'm looking and I'm like, I'd like a chance to formulate the questions. Now, somebody in the chat made the legitimate point that I don't want to use the traumatizing stuff on very young children, right? Probably not the slavery and rape versus on a 5-year-old, and I think that's fair. Okay, so let's call it older kids, junior high, high school kind of thing. Let me formulate the questions. How many foreskins did King Saul want David to slice off of the penises of Philistines as a dowry for his daughter's hand in marriage? 100! Ding, 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 ding. Correct. Actually, David brought 200 foreskins. He was like, oh, you want 100? I'm going to double that. I'll impress you. Who wants a dowry of foreskins? Someone explain this Bible story to me. And these are God's people, Saul and David. Who says, I would like fleshy penis tips so that you can marry my daughter? How are those even delivered? Like, you bring them in a basket? Is it like a serving bowl? You put them in a bag? Do you bring them in one by one with a little jewelry case? Like you would give somebody an engagement ring and you just take the top off? Oh, look, foreskin times 200. How do you deliver foreskins to the king? I have questions. Let's call it a 15-year-old who thinks the Bible is the good book. How many pieces of silver did God command the rapist to pay the dad of the rape victim before marrying the young woman he raped? Right? Use this as an exercise to inform them of just how jacked up the Bible really is. Okay. Jennifer from New England, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can. So glad you called. What's on your mind?
So I know, political question, not so much religious. I have recently met a group that are actually like Marxist socialists that are actually supporting bringing communism back to the United States. And they're not quite as scary as you think they would be. It's kind of like when you meet a Church of Satanism people, they're a lot more cuddly than you would expect. Still, I find I'm a democratic socialist, we have some overlap in terms of the Venn diagram. But I was just wondering, what is your experience in terms of meeting some of these people? They're getting a lot of coverage with like the college crowds, people that are a little more open-minded to changing the current system, seeing that capitalism really just has not worked for them. Did you have an opinion on some of these rising clubs?
Well, you have a point about meeting our opposition or meeting people who are different or have what we consider to be an unusual or foreign point of view. And as somebody raised in strawberry red Oklahoma, I'm very much that way. Whenever we hear communist, people tend to blanch and brace their shoulders and flip out. And sometimes here in this state, then they invoke the name of Satan. I'm with you. I think communism is a utopian fantasy it's not the way. And I'm not an expert, but in my 55 years of being alive, I think I align more with you as a democratic socialist. I think there do need to be guidelines and requirements. And I do think that we have a societal responsibility for infrastructure, for caring for our poor, for establishing health care, for those types of things. But the larger point about meeting people of differing viewpoints where they are, listening and discovering their humanity, even if we disagree, I think that's a valid one.
Yeah, I got you one up more with the in terms of being stuck in backwards area. I'm actually originally from southern Louisiana.
Ooh.
I moved up here when I was 24, so it was a bit of a culture shock there.
Big fun in Louisiana, especially during the election season. So you escaped to New England. What's the political climate there? Forgive my ignorance about New England. What's it like?
Wonderfully liberal. Wonderfully liberal. I'm driving around with an atheist sticker on the back glass of my car, and nobody messes with me. I don't get keyed. I don't get threatened. It is wonderfully liberal, especially it's all legalized pot around here, so everybody's just baked and happy. And lots of colleges, and it is truly just like the wonderland coming here after being stuck in the deep south.
Okay, that's a potential show title, Baked and Happy. By the way, if you have a guest couch, Natalie and I may need to come up there just because things are insane here in Oklahoma. But I agree. I tend to resist this tribalistic, binary bumper sticker vilification of everybody, even those who do have a bad idea, rather than scream evil or Nazi or whatever or garbage. I think sometimes it really does behoove us to be able to sit down and have a human-to-human conversation, which is an opportunity for minds to be expanded, perceptions to be expanded, and sometimes opinions to be changed. That's a great point, Jennifer. Thanks for making it.
Thank you so much. And
right.
You have a great day. I do watch you as much as I possibly can.
Oh, you're the one. Thanks so much, Jennifer. You take care, all right?
All right.
All right, see you
Have
later.
a good day. Bye.
You watch, you listen, and thank you so much. By the way, and shameless plug, thank you again for listening to my second podcast, True Stories with Seth Andrews, approaching 400,000 downloads. People are enjoying it, and they're fun to do. And I would love it if you would help me get the word out. TrueStoriesPodcast.com. Or you can just subscribe on all major podcast apps. True Stories with Seth Andrews. Yes, it's a digression, a self-serving one, and a shameless one. And I don't apologize for it. I've got Scott at 229. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Let's talk. You want to talk DeSantis?
Yeah, I wanted to discuss the possibility of voting for Trump in the primary, just to give the Republicans or the Democrats something to vote against in the general election.
Help me understand what you're saying. You want Trump to receive the nomination, and that would make the right-wing evangelical Republican Party easier to defeat in 2024?
I'm considering it, yes.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to understand the strategy. You think
I'm thinking Trump is done for. He may be popular in the polls, but I don't think he will win another election.
He's certainly in the hot seat with all these lawsuits that have been filed against him, whether it's business fraud or sexual assault allegations, etc. I know that things are just going to get worse for him, that he's going to get turned up, and I think he's going to become increasingly unhinged. Well, actually, I don't know. It's hard to believe he's more unhinged than he actually is. Have you seen the screenshots from Truth Social? He's just lost his freaking mind. Everything from saying we should do away with the Constitution to calling himself clairvoyant. Just whack. Yeah. The NFTs. Have you seen the digital NFTs they've made where he's like some superhero with lasers and shit coming out of his eyes? And it's insane.
Absolutely. I think it may be a viable strategy to vote for him in the primary.
What's your take on Ron DeSantis? You watched him from your vantage. What do you think?
I don't like him whenever he pulled the political stunt of taking all the people up to where did he send them to?
Over to Martha's Vineyard.
On the plane. Yeah, well, that's basically all I need to know about him.
What's that line when someone shows you who they are, believe them, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, he was done for whenever he pulled that political stunt. I didn't know much about him before then, but it's kind of like the same thing with Trump, and Trump has surpassed this many, many times. If you only knew one thing about Trump, and now that's many things, it would be enough not to vote for him. And DeSantis has already crossed that line, I think, yes.
Basic human decency for president 2024. And there are some people who think that everybody's equal. Everybody's equally bad. Both parties are equally bad. Or if I make a choice that I love the Democrats and I'm worshiping at the church of the Democrats, or Biden is my savior. And these people, I think, are just straw manning the shit out of what is a very complex issue. I think that's one of the difference of people who worship Donald Trump or even DeSantis. They'd see them as savior figures. And I'm like, no, this is not how I approach elected officials. They are both leaders and accountable servants. And I'm doing a cost benefit on which party, which platform, which candidate is more inclusive, more accepting, and more aligned with my values. And this is not, throw the baby out in the bathwater. I think you at some point have to make a choice. So it's an interesting perspective. If they nominate Trump, he's easier to defeat in 2024. That's interesting.
That's my thinking. And I'd like to say that I'm I don't align myself with Democrats or Republicans. I have voted Democrat and I have voted Republican in the past, but I will say that when I did vote Republican, it was a completely different party than it is today.
I get that. Thanks for sounding off. Are you on the road today?
Yes, I am. I'm a commercial truck driver, yes.
Oh, you've seen the highways. How many miles a week do you think you drive?
Probably between 28 and 3,000 a week.
Holy cow. Well, be safe on the road, my friend. I'm glad I'm able to help you kill a few minutes of the commutes, and we'll talk again, okay?
Thanks for your time.
All right. Sometimes I wonder if that'd just be a great way. I mean, just you in the open road, you know, the sound of the wind against the windshield, and you throw something on. Like, I enjoy, it's funny, I fly a lot. I feel like some years I'm on a plane so much, but it's when I'm in the car that I stick an audio book on and kick back and get your snacks. And I don't know why, but I only eat cheddar popcorn and beef jerky on a road trip. I don't know why I do that. It's a weird quirk. Oh, there's a convenience store. I'm 3 hours out from home heading to destination Y. I need to stop off and get cheddar popcorn and beef jerky. I have no idea why I do that, but there's something relaxing about it, and I enjoy the road trips more and more as I get older. Won't be taking a road trip to Florida. Well, maybe I will. Not to, DeSantis's house, but Florida also has some really, really, really encouraging organizations, the free thought organizations down there that host free thought events. And there are secular activists and scientists and people who are pounding the drum and ringing the bell and sounding the alarm down there to try to undo the damage, to promote science, reason, humanism, humanity. So props to you. So I'm not discounting the whole state. I do, though, look at you much like I look at Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, etc. And I lament that there are so very many people that seem to want to set fire to the rest of us. Anyway, I appreciate your input and participation. I hope you're safe and well this week, and I'll see you back here in a bit.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.